Okay, we're live. Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Bid and Ask by Dr. Wealth. I'm Alvin, your host today, and I have with me Adam, who runs Stack. If you have been to the website, Stack Homes, it's very, very nicely designed. Right, it's very, very different from a lot of these sites that we have been to, and property is a very popular thing that Singaporeans or even Asians at large likes to invest in. Right, and it's a topic that I guess it will never go away. Right, and none other than Adam with me that to talk about property investing today. And Adam, please say hi to our audience.
Hi everyone. I'm Adam from Stacked. Thanks for the introduction, Alvin.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put in the comment box, and we will address them later. All right. Maybe Adam, for a start, tell us about a little bit more about yourself and how do you end up starting this company called Stack?
Okay. So actually, we founded Stacked Homes in 2017. And when we first started the company, it's quite hard to believe it, but we started off with a do-it-yourself portal where we try to cut out agents by allowing buyers and sellers to connect directly. So when the reason why we actually did that was because back then, my business partner and I, Drews, he and I noticed, that sites like Airbnb were very polished. Back then in their older designs, they were considered quite polished. The user experience was great. And we were thinking, how come there isn't something like this in Singapore, right? Where the portal is very well designed, the photos are well taken. And back then there was already like 3D models and technologies, but it wasn't fully utilized in Singapore. So when we started Stacked Homes, we wanted to create a portal where buyers and sellers would be able to see great photos, great write-ups about properties, and use that as a platform. So we actually even got like a 3D camera from Metapod, where we take like individual points in a home and you can actually walk through the home virtually. And this was in 2017. So we were like, in a way, one of the first few to actually start using Metapod in Singapore for this purpose. But, as the months went by, we didn't really notice that the traffic was growing. And we felt that, the Singapore market wasn't quite ready for do-it-yourself, right? A lot of the times when we were on the site, like when the users were on our site, they ended up like asking us a lot of questions, like which property should I buy, what's suitable for me. And, it was during this time that we realized that most of the problems that people face is not so much that they have to pay a hefty commissions, is that they are not getting good advice. They're not actually getting advice that they're actually paying for at the end of the day, right? So a lot of people think, agents, they don't deserve to make so much. But that's not really the problem here. It's more of that they weren't getting the advice that they thought commensurates with the amount that they were paying. So how we got to where we are today, right, with the editorial, was that we had a blog all along, and the blog was more of a marketing tool then. And when we were just starting out the blog, we actually wrote a lot of articles regarding en bloc. Right, back then, 2017 to 2018, it was like en bloc craze. And we actually didn't know that the en bloc wave was coming, but we just wrote about it. And from there, our traffic started to grow and people started to notice us. And that was when we realized that a lot of people felt that, the whole buying process was very difficult for them. So that's when we decided to focus on the editorial more than this DIY portal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, at first, what I hear from you is that you wanted to start a DIY kind of portal so that you can cut out the middleman, right, and save money for both the buyer and the seller. And you say that the Singaporeans are probably not ready for this. What do you think is some of the obstacles? Is it that they are just too lazy to go and handle the process, or what's stopping them from doing it?
Okay,
so you're talking about thousands of fees, right? Thousands of dollars of fees at least, right?
Yeah. It's not that they're lazy. I think it's that a lot of Singaporeans, as an Asian country, right, we spend a lot of time already at work. So in your free time, I know unless property is like your hobby, right, you wouldn't really be reading so much about it. You want to just relax. So that's one of the obstacles, right? Dual income. Two people are working. Who has really got the time to go and research? The second thing, right, is that Singapore property market, unlike in other countries like say Germany, Singapore is a lot more complicated. Even though we are a smaller country, right, we have so many regulations, so many different types of properties. And there is this mentality that, we don't want to miss out. We don't want to end up buying the wrong property. Whereas in countries like, say, Germany, you just tend to buy or even rent the place where you are working nearby. That's kind of it, right? But in Singapore, it's like the property prices are very expensive. There are just a lot of rules and regulations, and you just need someone to help you navigate through the complex waters. So that's why I feel that a lot of the buyers here, they need that kind of consultation.
Okay, so that's how you guys pivoted towards giving that kind of consultancy services, right, to help people find their perfect home, so-called, right?
I won't say our primary model is on consultancy services. We just like to write about property, challenge a common sense kind of thinking, like freehold is always better than leasehold. And I think that's kind of our focus more than like say providing consultancy services.
Okay. Education, right? About
Education,
fire content and challenging the beliefs that people have.
Yeah.
Okay. I since we are talking about property, all right. Now maybe I can start a giveaway. All right. Let me just see whether I can share a screen. Let me see. Okay, just give me a while, right? Okay, so for those who are joining us, all right, I'm going to give away a property investment book because this is a property topic, right? And this is the book that I'm going to give away. This is called the No BS Guide to Property Investment. It's written by Property Soul, right? So I got this book quite a number of years back, and it's very precious. Okay, why I tell you it's very precious, right? It's because it's a signed copy. Okay, all right, it's a signed copy. So I actually don't want to give this out, but I guess since we have a special guest and we really talk about property, and I'm going to give this away. So to increase your chances of winning, right, you just like this post, share the post, and comment, "I want the book." Right. So if you do all these three, then you have a higher chance that you get a book. We'll contact you after this interview ends via Facebook. Okay, so let's go back to our topic. All right. When I first went into stack homes, right, what I discovered was that the design was very unique, right? Like before the session, I told you that a lot of times when I see a property site, I can tell at first hand whether it is a real estate agent that is running the site, or is it a property listing company website such as probably Guru or 99Co. So when I went to Stack Homes, I thought it was more like a designer home, kind of feel that I got. And you did mention that design is a very important element when it comes to Stack, right? So who actually places the emphasis on design? Was it you or your partners? And who does the design?
I think that it's more of a team effort when we saw the site, because we regularly serve a lot of the US sites as well, and after a while you get kind of used to good design. So when you look at your own site and you look at the other Singapore real estate sites, you realize in Singapore we are quite behind in terms of design from Western countries or any other country actually. So just having a different design altogether kind of makes you stand out already. So that was something which we wanted to have quite early on. The aesthetics to us, because we are very used to reading a lot of journals, and a lot of the journals, we take a lot of inspiration from the journals that we read online. They could be real estate blogs from other countries. So then we wanted to bring that into Singapore because no one in Singapore was doing it. So in order for us to create this branding, we actually consulted a friend. She runs a company called The Candidate, And her company actually helped us with the branding. So in the beginning, there were a few designs, like one that was more corporate, and then slowly there was some design that came out that was a more softer kind of touch. And that kind of resonated with us. We wanted an editorial kind of feel, one that evokes some authority when it comes to sharing of information. Yet it's not too formal like a company. And so therefore we found that balance with the kind of design that we have today.
Okay, so it is positioning, right? That you mentioned that because there is a lack of design in a lot of property websites, and you all learn from the US, that's actually quite normal, and then you all just brought it and position yourself as, no, when we are different. So it's a differentiating factor that you all have put in. Okay, so that's very interesting. I hope you guys have a chance to go and look at the very nicely designed, and of course the content is great, right? But that design just make you want to stay on the site a lot longer.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. It's really not just about the colors and the fonts. I mean, this is one thing, but a lot of our emphasis also is that we want to let people know we take pride, in the kind of quality that we provide. So if you look at our condo reviews, you can see that the photos that we take, they're quite detailed. We start to focus a lot more on high quality photos, the colors. We make sure that we capture everything that needs to be captured and we write about them. So it's not just I take my phone and then I snap and it's a bit blur and then I just write like, oh, this is a pool. It's quite deep. You gotta be careful. No, it's very proper. We write like how many pools there are. We take a picture of each of them, and then we also describe things like how does it feel to be here? Are the blocks too near? Is there a good spacing? Is it crowded on the weekends? So I think it goes hand in hand with a good design, but a lot of it is also the content and the photos.
Okay, so how long does it take to do up a nice post, typically? Let's say it's a condo review, right? Because I do see that there's a lot of review of new launches. So how long does it take? And because the article where I see can be very long, very detailed, written up, and a lot of nice pictures. So I assume there have been a lot of effort put in it.
Yes, so that's actually a good question. You're the first person to ask me that, actually. It takes about 4 days to write one condo review. So it's actually, you have to go down to the condo or the show flat, take all the pictures, and then you have to write about the condo grounds. Beyond the condo grounds also, you have to write about the pricing, surrounding condos in the area. You have to consider the sun direction, write about them. So all these takes about 4 days on average.
Mm-hmm. And how many people are involved in just one article like this?
Usually it's just one or two, one person actually. There's a photographer and there's a reviewer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, 2 people, right? So the photographer is so very important. Must know what to take. Otherwise, you go back again.
Yes. Yeah, you have to. So it's very important that all the amenities are captured. So some of the time also is taken to do the research, like what are the areas that we have to cover so that we don't miss it out. Like if let's say there was a garbage disposal point at some area and then we didn't take a picture of it, and then it turns out that the maintenance there was very bad, which is very telling of say how a managing agent manages a condo, then that's something that we don't want to miss out on.
What is the most popular article on Stack?
Most popular article. We've had recently how to avoid paying the ABSD. Clearly, a lot of Singapore, a lot of that is on Singaporeans' mind. Another one that did quite well was actually a I would say not so much an analysis article, but one that talked about void decks in Singapore. So I'm not sure if you've seen that one, but it was actually an opinion piece, and that was quite an interesting read.
What about maybe share a little bit more with us?
Well, the void deck one is actually it's more of an article of comparing like how old the void decks in Singapore have changed over time. So like how last time it was very wide and open, and then now it's moving towards a stage where the government is giving less opportunities for chance events to happen in void decks. So then they make it like much smaller. They created spaces with particular purpose, rather than just an empty area. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that kind of struck perhaps a chord with Singaporeans who grew up. It's sort of a nostalgia element there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better now because of COVID-19, right? So you're not supposed to congregate
Yeah.
with reading groups.
No,
Yeah.
that's a good angle actually. Some
Somehow
foresight there.
the design worked out. Okay, that's interesting one. All right, I didn't come across that. I'll probably go and check it out. Right, but it does sounds like there's a little bit of artistic flair, which is kind of like coincide with the branding of the what Stack is about. Okay. Yeah, and you also have an e-commerce store, right? That I've noticed. Okay, who chooses all those lifestyle items that's sold on Stack?
I would say it's a team effort. All of us look at it, right? And if it doesn't make the cut, if one of us goes, no, I don't think it should be there, then it's not there. But we also pay attention to items that are not commonly found in Singapore, but are very beautiful. They're affordable, and we feel that there is potential for it to be purchased and used here. So then it gives people the opportunity to have things that are different in their house, so it doesn't look like just another house, because everyone just buys their stuff from IKEA, from Castlery, Hitvan, and they all look great, but they all look the same. At some point, if you go on Property Guru and you just scroll down the listings, you start to see, 5 years ago, this BTO already reached MOP. You're going to look at all the renovated flats, right? They all have the same kind of like furniture and design. So we wanted to bring in something that's a little bit more different. And one of the approaches that we are actually taking is also to review these items. So it's not just about selling things, but also how you can bring in beautiful things into your home that we find is actually functional, right? Not just something you buy online and then it actually doesn't work or doesn't look great in your home.
I guess the biggest question that the audience would have, and initially myself as well, is that what is Stack about, right? So you have like an e-commerce section of it, but then that's not the main thing that you guys do. And you have an editorial, you'll do very detailed analysis, you'll write very thought-provoking kind of opinion pieces. That makes it a little bit like journalism, right? And and you can't go away with the fact that people also sort of think, oh, are you guys real estate agents? They are just more chic, that is different from the rest, right?
Okay.
So maybe help our audience understand a little bit, right? How would you define Stack?
I would say Stacked is your real estate friend that is there from start to end. Like myself and the business partner that started this, we aren't actually property agents. We're just interested in property. We'd like to do a lot of research on property. So the editorial is more of a place for us to question a lot of the what people think is common sense. A lot of agents will tell you, buy District 9, 10, 11 in core central region. That's the best. Buy freehold. That's the best. Don't worry, this one got good views, going to make money. All of these things, we scrutinize them. We run through the data. So that's our editorial section. It's for people to come and understand more about property, away
Get educated.
to get educated. So then moving forward from there, we actually do provide a consultation service where if you want something more tailored to yourself, then we provide that kind of advice to you. It's necessary if you want to buy a property, because the articles that we write can provoke your thoughts, right? But the consultation goes down to your preferences, what you like, and the process works such that we actually take the time to understand your objectives. And then we look at specific projects and their surrounding comparables and find out whether or not it makes sense to your objectives. So that's not something that we can write in the editorial, right? There's just so much limitations in our writing. It's mostly topical. And then moving downstream from there, that's where, there's you move into your home and there's renovations, and then you want to buy nice things for your home. So yeah, I would say that we actually provide the entire chain
Experience.
here. Yeah, from education down to making your home special.
Okay, right. That's a very concise way to put it. All right, I like it. And you mentioned about the consultancy service, right? What is the profile of a typical client?
Typical client. Well, we've spoken to quite a lot of people. So they come from varied backgrounds, but I would say a lot of them are looking for own stay. Generally, they own an HDB. They are looking to upgrade. So I think that a lot of them, especially since our editorial attracts a particular age group, like between 30 to 35. So they already stayed the minimum 5 years, and now they're looking to upgrade. So that's generally the kind of profiles that we get. But we also get people who are also interested in investments.
Okay, so mostly homestay, midlife, right, and HDB upgraders.
Wouldn't really want to say midlife. Say 30. I'm 30 plus, so I won't say midlife. But yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
30s,
for
30s.
homestay, yeah, for homestay.
Okay, great. Let's probably talk a little bit about property investment, right? So, what are some of the common misconceptions that you guys have to, write an opinion piece or a piece to debunk certain myths? What do you think is the biggest myth regarding property?
The biggest myth. Wow. I would say one of the biggest myths is that freehold is the best investment.
Okay,
Because
why
I think
so?
we were told from the very beginning that, I mean, if you look at Singapore property, leasehold is not a very common concept in other countries, right? Only in Singapore, the UK. So, well, in China. If you were to think about that, a lot of people think in the long run they want to make money, they need to buy freehold because then all the property prices will just go down at some point. But if we actually look at the real data, right, we have articles written on this. Is freehold necessarily better than leasehold? The answer is no, right? Not necessarily. In the long run, yes, but a lot of the investments, a lot of people who come to us and they ask for investment advice, what's important to take note of is your holding period. So if your holding period is not going to be for the long term, then there could be better opportunities for you to make an investment property in a leasehold property, because the quantum will, it will be lower than freehold by about 15 to 20%. And that gives you a greater range of properties to buy. And if they are still quite young and the area has a lot of potential for transformation, then you would be looking at a decent capital appreciation, as to say, compared to a freehold property.
Yeah. Okay. So in a sense that if you want to make money from leasehold, you got to sell it at some point in time, right? Before the lease get too old. Am I right to say that?
Yes.
As
Of
opposed
course.
to freehold.
Yeah, unless we are looking at, what happened in 2007 to 13, where property prices really skyrocketed, it doubled, then even the leasehold property behaved like freehold property. But we don't want to bank on such events in the future, right? Property is a good hedge against inflation for sure. So it helps there, right? Even whether it's leasehold or freehold. But if you're looking at long-term investments, then we'd be very careful with old leasehold properties, especially if if you think about who is going to buy their property in the future, the target audience, is it going to be there? What are their opportunity costs? If they were to buy your old leasehold property, what are they sacrificing around the area that could be maybe a better alternative? So then you'd have to think, okay, maybe this property may not be best for you to purchase if you're thinking long term.
Okay. I have a friend who doesn't believe in buying like new launches. He said that new launches are sucker prices. You always buy from the secondary market. Yeah. So what's your view on this?
We've done quite a few articles on new launches. We actually think, on the contrary, new launches, even though they look high, right, in terms of, say, the PSF, we've come to a stage in the Singapore market now where we can't keep looking at PSF. If you look at just the quantum, right, you will find that there's actually quite good purchases that you can make here. The floor plans generally become more efficient. Last time there was an era, right, when planters and bomb shelters were around, and these days you don't have that, right? So in terms of the quantum, it could be lower with new launches. And a lot of it also boils down to developer price staging. So when a new launch is being sold, it's not in the secondary market. So market forces don't determine the price here. The developers are the ones that set the price. Developers have strong motivation to sell out their property. So usually when they launch a property, they would set their prices in stages where they continuously increase it until it gets sold out, right? Unless you have a case like you have to get rid of all your inventory, otherwise you must pay the ABSD, right? The 5-year ABSD deadline, which wipes out all their profits. So unless that happens, usually they would set the price lower at the start. And a lot of the owners who buy these properties because when they sell it in the future, they have holding power. They won't want to sell it for a loss. You see, so the price becomes quite stable after its launch, unless the developers priced it too high relative to its surrounding properties. But for resale condos, on the other hand, a lot of the owners who bought it in the past, they paid very little money for it, right? I was just speaking to one of my consultants today. He was saying there was a client who bought double bay residences for a very, very low price, like below 500,000 for one bidder. You can imagine at that kind of price, if he were to sell it today, he can sell below market rate if he wanted to and still make a profit. So in that sense, if it's on the secondary market, then is your price necessarily being protected? I don't think so. So in that sense, you can see how new launches can be a good purchase as well. But that's not to say that resale is terrible. There's also opportunities in resale.
Okay, so it's also dependent on the market cycle of the property market, right?
Yeah.
Because if let's say it's a bullish market, even if you buy new launches or even resale, you will be able to profit from it eventually if the market goes even higher, right? And speaking about that, right, one of the surprising thing that I noticed was that the property market after COVID-19 has sort of like died down a little, right? The property market was very strong. In fact, I saw that PropNext had a record quarter, right, earning a lot of commissions through the sales. So it gave me an impression that the property market in Singapore is heating up again. Is that the scenario? Is that the case now?
Heating up, as in right now?
Yeah, right now.
I wouldn't say that the property market is heating up. I mean, there's definitely a lot of pent-up demand, given the regulations have kicked in 1213 to curb the rise in the property prices. But right now, I think a lot of people are just waiting. They're waiting for the mortgage deferment to end. They're waiting for the full impact of COVID-19 to take place. So I wouldn't say that the property is hot right now. In fact, it's actually a buyer's market at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of the feeling that we get in the resale market. And some like a lot of the clients also, when it comes to new launches, they're also holding back, thinking, okay, maybe I'll just wait and see how. Yeah.
Okay. So what's amazing is that the cooling measures after all these years and despite COVID-19 has happened, right? Yet none of the cooling measures were being relaxed. So I was really pretty surprised, right? So I thought the market was hot. That's why the measures were still in place. But what you're telling me is that people are able to buy, but they're just holding back and waiting, right? And I thought that interest rates are very low now, and that makes property investing a lot more attractive at this point in time. Okay.
I think with the ABSD in place, for instance, and also the TDSR, right, of 60%. Now with the TDSR, especially, the available number of properties that you can actually purchase is a lot lower, right? Because back then, I could afford more given a certain income. But with the TDSR now in place, it really limits the amount of properties that I can buy, right? And I think, if you were to pay for a property and you pay the 12% ABSD, it would take about 4 to 5 years for you to break even. And that is based on the gross rental yield, right? If you minus off your agency fees, your taxes, your maintenance, it could take even longer than that just to break even on the property. So a lot of people are holding back right now. And we think that the reason why the property prices can actually go up so much, 07 to 13, is simply because, well, demand is a lot higher than the supply, right? The population in Singapore went up. And if we're not going to see that anytime soon, a lot of Singaporeans are going to be quite skeptical to go and pay this hefty tax, and suffer an upfront loss at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. But Singaporeans like properties, right? So maybe until one day, right, they've been holding back for so long, they cannot take it, they just go and buy one. Right? Who knows?
Well, there is a possibility that this becomes a new normal. So we are not taking that out of the equation. But for now, we still feel that not a lot of people can afford to pay this ABSD. So it's also a question of whether or not they have the means to, because if they do that, then it also limits the number of properties that they can buy, right?
Okay. So does Stack focus more on residential? I suppose so, right? And not so much on commercial, industrial?
We like to keep commercial and industrial open, but right now we are more focused on residential.
Okay. Because I was another driver for why I of course have a little bit of bias that I think that the property market is improving. Okay, it's also because with COVID-19, that a lot of people start to work from home, and they're going to spend a lot of time, right? You're going to eat there, you're going to sleep there, you're going to play there. Now you're going to work there. It's almost like 24 hours you're in that space. And for homes that have bigger family living in it, right, we'll find it very challenging, right? For example, you want to do a Zoom call, a Zoom meeting, right? There is no space, no private space for you, and it's almost impossible to work from home. And I thought that would pressure some of these nucleus family to like move out to their own space. And since they're going to spend so much time on it, right, they would want a good environment, right? Buy a good place, stay there for long term, and who knows, right? Maybe we may have another second wave or what, and they may even choose a room to make it into an office, right? So I thought that the demand for residential would be there, right? And there's pressure, right? The pressure of that living environment has changed because of COVID-19. Right? I don't know whether you have seen some of the clients or readers that are like this. They have this problem.
So far from the people that we talk to, no one has really said, I would like to specifically have a, say, study area because of like COVID. I think even before COVID situation happened, there was already an appreciation for a separate area for privacy. Of course, with COVID now, there's even greater awareness. So we were even thinking that dual key could come in that sense, where now people can look at the separate section, like the smaller area, for example, the studio that's within a 3-bedroom dual key would be the office for one of the family members, right, where they can meet clients there. So in a sense, dual key does have that added purpose now that COVID-19 has happened, and people are starting to see like these are the products that they could actually consider moving forward. But I would say that as much as we like to fantasize the idea of working from home, and this is just my personal opinion, right? We have still, I think it's still a bit too early to see whether or not COVID-19 would permanently change the taste that people have in the housing that they get. Because this work from home arrangement may not necessarily last for a while in Singapore. So I think it's quite hard to say whether or not it does permanently change the taste of people.
Okay. Still temporary, right, at this point in time. Yeah.
It still feels quite temporary, yeah. Especially now that the vaccines are in later stages. So still have to see whether or not that works out.
Okay. There are some questions from the audience. So Cruz is asking one of the favorite questions of all time, right? With the COVID affecting Singapore economy, can you share what you think of the property outlook in 1 to 5 years?
1 to 5 years. Okay, I think it's our company stance that in the next few months, we could continue to see a correction. But if you're talking about the next 5 years, we do think that in the longer run, such horizon, prices will continue to inch upwards. Yeah, and it's simply a matter of the demand and the supply. So right now there is a supply that's coming up, but over time we do feel that the demand will meet this supply, and by 2023, 2024, this supply would have dwindled, and moving forward, I think prices will continue to shoot up. Yeah, okay. There was even an interesting report by Morgan Stanley actually that predicted property prices double by 2030. So I think it also depends on your purpose. If you're buying it for own stay, don't think so much, don't wait. If it meets your criteria, then you should already get it if you're urgent. If it's for investment, then long term, of course, it's always good because it's an excellent hedge against inflation at the least.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and given the current climate, is that there's a sudden shift towards more of protecting Singaporeans when it comes to jobs, right? Yeah. And that would also mean that maybe we will have fewer foreign workers in the future, right? Would this impact the real estate market if that is true? If we have less
definitely, if the population remains stagnant, then we would say the property market will remain quite stagnant as well. But in order for Singapore, I mean, yes, there is a possibility that the Singapore government wouldn't want to increase its population, but we think that's highly unlikely. We think that for Singapore to progress, the population would have to increase. But I don't want to get into that because it can be quite political. So we'll just stick to real estate. But yeah, I think Singapore will continue to remain a very competitive and stable environment for people to come in and work. So, unlike other countries, in Singapore, because there are a lot of expats here working, they would help to support the prices, not just in terms of buying, but in terms of renting as well.
Okay, yeah. Just in case, a little bit of economics, right, is that GDP growth will be a combination of productivity multiplied by labor, right? So if let's say we have less labor, then our GDP growth may go down because productivity, we have been trying so hard to increase it for so many years and we just failed to do so, right? Just a little bit of context. Okay, so Cruz have a follow-up question. He said that should one buy a new launch at an okay location or resale at a good location, assuming resale price is lower by 25%?
Oh, that's quite specific. Okay. So basically it's concerned about the gap here, right? The gap between the new launch and the resale prices. I mean, it depends, right? I mean, if it's for own stay and if you like one location over the other, then you should just go for the one that makes you feel at home. But if you're looking at capital appreciation, right? Like everybody who buys for own stay also want to have capital appreciation. Nobody comes to us and say, I want to stay in a house, but I don't need capital appreciation. So far, okay, I wouldn't say no one has said that. So far, we had very small handful of people who said that. But most people want to own stay and they want capital appreciation. So it's not about whether you should get resale in a good location.
Yep, resale in a good location or a new launch at an okay location.
Right.
And then the resale is cheap.
You'd have to look at both these developments, and you have to also see whether or not, if you're talking about capital appreciation, whether or not the surrounding properties are inferior or superior to the one you're buying. And you also have to consider the location. Is there a transformation story in the area? So if you're hoping for capital appreciation, is there a reason why you think capital appreciation should happen for the area? Yeah, so that is coming from a capital gains perspective.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I hope you get the answer. All right, and let's maybe make it more interesting. All right, let's say hypothetically, you struck Toto. Okay, $1 million landed on your lap. Right. How would you deploy if you were only able to invest this in property? Okay, this $1 million, you can only invest in properties. How would you invest this sum of money?
Wow. Whew. That's a good question.
It doesn't need to be,
$1 million in
just for the fun of it.
$1 million.
A thought experiment
in cash. Okay.
You can buy one property, right?
One property. Yeah. I've not actually had such a fantasy before. Never really thought about that. Let me think about this a bit more.
Okay, no worries. While you're thinking, I'll give you some time to think. Okay, while you're thinking, let me just pull up the giveaway. All right. I have here with me an investing book by Property So. It's signed by her. Okay, this is a very precious only copy that I have, but I'm going to give away to one of you. All right. So what you need to do to increase your chances of winning, you like this post, share the post, and comment, I want the book. So the more you do these three things, then your chances of getting the book is higher. All right. It's a real book. I'm going to mail it to you. I'm going to send it to you to your address. And we'll select the winner at the end of this session. We'll contact you privately, right, for the giveaway. Okay, I hope you have an answer.
Well, I think a lot of people would disagree with me on this one, but I would buy a small bedroom in one pearl bank.
And small bedroom in
one pearl bank. And
one bedroom or studio?
I will get a one bedroom
okay.
in one pearl bank. And the reason is because I live quite nearby in the area, so I like that particular area. And that new launch, I like the architecture of it. I like the heritage around the area. So that if I could get one property, it would be that. So
Okay. And you wouldn't. So will you take loan and then you buy another property, or you just fully pay for this one?
I would, if I could, I would try to leverage. I don't think it makes sense to buy properties in cash at one go, especially now with interest rates this low. But I wouldn't want to pay the ABSD, you see. So I would probably not buy a second property.
Okay. So yeah, you guys heard it. Maybe when the showroom is open, a lot of people are rushing because Adam said so.
No. It's a personal preference, right? I mean, it's not like the property that I think would have capital gains. It's actually more of a rental product, right?
Okay.
So yeah, it's just
because it's in the city. Yeah. Right. And I guess what people also want to know is what are some of the property buying tips that you can provide them with regards to, let's say, it's a homestay property and investment property. What are some of the tips that they should know?
Okay, well, the first thing is you should get a good agent. That is definitely on the top of the list.
I'm going to stop you there, right? How are you going to find a good agent? Everyone will say that they're very good, right?
Usually you'd have to, like, most people will find a good agent based on word of mouth. But we, here at Stacked, of course, we provide this consultation service, so we can say that we do provide that good level of, the credible level of service, because you can see from the way we write our research that we give a lot of thoughts. We give a lot of thought to a particular project, the pros and the cons. So one thing about finding a good agent is that they have to listen to your needs. That's the first and foremost important thing, is listen to your needs. But what's important is once you start going to the show flats with them or a condo with them, right, you have to ask them a lot of difficult questions. And that's when you can really tell whether an agent is good. If they end the show flat or the resale viewing with, "So what do you think?" and they only say the good points, then you probably would need to ask a lot more difficult questions and see whether or not they are willing to share with you the negative things about a condo or a new launch. So that's actually a very important thing. You need to get two sides of the coin always. The next thing is that, surprisingly, a lot of the problems, and the reason why you should get an agent also, is that if you're buying a $1 million property, some of the simplest paperwork can be quite tedious, and any small mistake can actually lead to huge repercussions. So that's another thing that we would advise buyers, whether it's for own sale or investment, is that you have to get the paperwork sorted out, and someone has to help you with that.
Is there like a case where, we talk about the repercussion?
It could be something as simple as, not even like the lapsing of the option to purchase, for example. Like, you just need an agent to be there to make sure that they explain the timelines to you very well. I know you can always say it's the buyer's fault, but if you engage an agent, it is within their professional capacity to ensure that you get the best outcome from the deal. So yeah, that's the one thing that we'll look out for.
Okay, so that's number one, right? Yeah. So after finding a good agent, what other tips can they follow?
Okay, so you have to know your priorities. The agent, a good one, will ask you what your objectives are. So you would have to, because everyone has limited budget, right? If I had unlimited money, I want everything. I want size, I want location, I want view. But all of us can only choose like 2 or 3 of these factors. So you have to know your priorities. Do you want to have a good size, or do you want to have a good location? This is generally the first tension, right? I want to live in a nice big home, but then for my budget, I have to stay in a faraway place, in, for example, Punggol, right? So you have to understand where your priorities lie. So that's also another thing. And we find that if you don't know where your priorities lie yet, you have to consult the agent to at least give you some suggestions so that you can go down, have the viewing, get a feel of the space. It does take up some time, but an agent can help you with that as well, to kind of understand your priorities. But it should come from you. Yeah. So that's the second thing you have to do. The third thing is that you have to start shortlisting properties that make sense to your objective and meets your budget. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the one.
How many properties should one shortlist before making a decision?
I think a reasonable amount to shortlist at the beginning would be 3 to 4 properties. And then you go down, take a look at them, and then you revise your selection again up to the point where you are happy with one, and then you can look at the available units if it's for resale, or if it's for new launch, and it's quite straightforward. There will be units available, so you go into the show flat, and then you have to decide what stack you want. Should you pay for a premium stack? Should you not pay for one? So it really depends again on your objectives. Are you getting for investment or for own stay? Yeah. So there's quite a lot of factors involved.
Okay. So it sounds like it's probably the same for whether is it homestay or investment, right? Just that the second tip that you share, knowing your objectives, knowing your purpose, would differentiate the two. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, that is correct. So for own stay, I mean, it's really dependent on whether or not the unit checks your personal preferences, right? Like if you like to have a certain view and you're willing to pay for it, then by all means go ahead. But let's say if it's for investment, then it's very different. We start looking at the numbers. Is a premium view necessarily worth paying for? So we start doing the research. Okay, what is a very similar condo? For example, one is it's the I think it was one of the projects in the Waterfront series in Bedok. So naturally, the premium view would be the one that costs more. And true enough, in the new launch, it does cost more, right? Because the developers can set a pricing, say like, for example, $100,000 premium, just an example. But when it hits the resale market, the units that you want to buy there may not necessarily be available. So the ones that are available could be the ones that don't have the reservoir view. So that's when we can start to see the gap decrease. And that's why sometimes when it comes to investment, it could be better to not even buy the premium stack to begin with.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes it tricky. It sounds to me that buying for homestay is simpler, but buying for investment, there are a lot more consideration, right? It's almost like ROI kind of thinking. Oh, if I good view, how much can I get at the end of the day? Right? What does the data say? Something like this, right? So a lot of work has to be done.
Well, I would say even for own stay, a lot of work has to be done because a lot of people who buy for own stay, like I said, they want to make money. They want at least their price to be protected. So those are the things that we also look out for. It's not just, if you own stay, then just tell me what you want. I will go on a property portal and then I will just check, filter, and then I'll submit to you this shortlist, right? We have to provide reasons. Like, yes, you want to stay, for example, the Woodley residences. Own stay, this condo meets your objectives. But why we also choose the Woodley residences is for XXX reasons, right? And it has to be justified why there would be at least some sustainable pricing in the future moving forward.
Okay. So those are the 3 tips. All right. And some other questions from the audience. Cruz asks, can buy new launch without agent, then recover the agent commission?
Actually, that's not allowed. So the CEA, the Council of Estate Agents, actually released a circular saying that this is actually not allowed. Your agent is not supposed to do that. And you also have to question if the agent is, say, paying you part of their commissions, then where does that agent's interest really lie? If they merely wanted to do the transaction with you, would they really want to advise you further? So, that's our thought behind that.
Okay, so short answer is no.
Short answer is no, yeah.
Okay, John asks, can agent negotiate a better price for me on resale property?
Yes. Actually, your agent is supposed to negotiate. Yeah, if he or she represents you, they are supposed to be the professional at negotiating for you. So definitely have your agent involved. In fact, I think it's better to get your agent involved because then you don't get too personal when it comes to the negotiation process. I think one of the problems with the DIY model was that when the buyer and seller could talk, sometimes it can be a bit messy if there's no professional element in between. Yeah.
End up in a cat fight.
I don't want to sell to you, like you're so rude, that kind of thing. So definitely your agent is supposed to help you in the negotiations.
It's almost like, even a lot of those kind of commercial dealing, people get lawyers to represent them, right? Just like when you buy a house, it's better they get representative, which is the real estate agent to speak on your behalf, right? It's always not good to speak directly to the buyer or the seller.
Yes, correct. And the agent also, because they have let's say if they have knowledge, like specialized knowledge in the area, they're able to come up with better negotiation points, right? They can tell the other agent, hey, bro, come on lah, you're selling at this price. Have you seen the other units at that block, like better view, higher floor, and they're selling lower than you? So they are able to come up with these points as well to help you with the negotiation.
But that's why it's very important to get a good real estate agent to represent you, right? Yeah, because I think a bad scenario could be the case where the agents may come into cahoots, and instead of negotiating hard for the client, they end up like, oh, let's agree we can transact at this price, right? Because likely their commission is a fraction of the selling price. Yeah.
Right.
So
yes.
There's an incentive to agree on a higher price, right?
Yeah.
So there's a view lah.
Yeah. So you have to find a professional agent. They definitely can't be working like in cahoots because they're supposed to be representing you in your best interest.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things supposed, right? But end up because incentive would drive a particular behavior, people will behave very differently. We talk about tips, how to buy properties, right? Sometimes I always find that it's always better to also not commit mistakes that people have made before, right? Then you already have gained a lot from there. So what are some of the common mistakes when it comes to property buying?
Well, when I actually asked the stack consultants that question, number one thing was just really very rudimentary things like paperwork. It's not even the complex things. I think one is the paperwork. I was even thinking maybe it's not thinking long term, but apparently that's not even one of the major mistakes that people make. We find that a lot of the clients that we talk to don't have a problem with that. It's really just down to the paperwork, surprisingly. Something that us as a DIY portal wanted to come in and help. Like last time as a DIY portal, we wanted to come in and say, oh, I'm sure buyers and sellers can do the paperwork themselves. But it's really these rudimentary things that a lot of mistakes happen. Yeah.
Okay, because they don't do it like on a day-to-day basis, right? Just like the agents, it's bread and butter. Yeah.
Yes,
how many
exactly.
You buy the whole life, right?
Most people just buy one or two in that. Well, at least in our era, right? You buy one or two, and then that's kind of like we call it a day. But for agents, they do it on a daily basis, so they are more familiar with the paperwork. They can do it a lot faster, and they can definitely look out for all the pitfalls.
Okay. And we share a lot about all this property investing stuff, and I think it's good to go back to Stack. Okay. Can you share with us what are some of the things that are in the pipeline that we can expect in the next few months or the next 1-2 years coming from you guys?
Okay, so we've progressed from a content creator in the form of writing. And while we are still growing that, we feel, or actually we know that video is currently the present way in which most people consume information. Like right now, this, for example, is video, right? People, they tune in, they watch. So that's something which we can expect from Stack moving forward. We hope to translate the kind of content that we produce on the editorial into videos, high quality videos that would be very interesting to watch. It's not going to be those type where we just give you a show flat tour or like this unit is close to, it's just a 5-minute walk to Kovan MRT. We want to do high quality videos that will be interesting to consume. So that's one thing. The next thing that we currently are doing and hopefully will have more episodes in the future would be a podcast. So actually, Alvin, we would like to ask you to join our podcast in the future.
I'm not the expert in property. You guys are, man.
Oh no, we are not going to. Our podcast actually doesn't talk specifically about like property investments. It's really just topics that are interesting that can revolve potentially around property or how your expertise relate to property. So it's not really property specific per se. It's more of just we want to touch on just topics that are interesting. Like, for example, the last podcast that we talked about a company called Figment. It was founded by a gentleman called Fang Lo. So he started a boutique co-living shop house company, right? Co-working. So it's definitely one of the more interesting podcasts that we have done, and it's a topic which it's quite different from property investment. So that's what we do with our podcasts.
Okay, sure. I mean, if it's not something that I don't know about, I'm happy to join in, right? And with regards to video, then that doesn't mean that we're going to expect things like Property Brothers, that kind of series coming from Stack.
Oh no. Definitely different. It's a different style that we intend to do altogether. And because we haven't launched it yet, I think we'd like to keep it on a down low for now, and hopefully when we launch, then people can see what we are trying to do better.
Yeah. Okay, looking forward. All right. So thanks for spending your time and sharing a lot about Stack as well as property investing, home buying in Singapore. And I guess the audience also get to ask what they want to ask. And please, educate yourself when it comes to property investing or buying, because it's a very high ticket item. It's probably the most expensive thing that you will buy in your entire lifetime.
Yeah.
So please do check out Stack Homes and educate yourself about this area of investing in properties. Okay, and thank you, Adam.
Yes, thank you very much, Alvin, for having me. It was a real pleasure to speak on behalf of Stack. Yeah, and
right.
Hopefully you will accept our invitation to all podcasts in the future.
Okay, thank you, and thank you everyone for listening. All the best. Good night.
All right. Good night.